We have a very concerning update regarding the De'Aaron Fox whole trade situation. As we all know, the Kings are starting to shop around their star point guard, but this now has serious implications on the future of this Kings team beyond De'Aaron Fox, because now DeMar DeRozan has come out and had a very interesting quote about his future now with the Sacramento Kings. Now, of course, DeMar DeRozan chose to be here, knowing De'Aaron Fox would at least be here for a stretch of time, and things are changing on a dime for Sacramento, and this is going to have a serious domino effect now. The first one, the second domino, I guess, being DeMar DeRozan. So we're going to break down directly what DeMar DeRozan said, what's going on with the latest on the De'Aaron Fox sweepstakes, which teams are interested, and all that type of stuff, and frankly, whether or not this team is going to be forced into a rebuild, which I don't think any Kings fans are really hoping for in their heart of hearts right now for this team. So lots of stuff to dive into, but before we do, folks, again, if you guys are part of the 83% of our viewers and haven't hit the subscribe button just yet, and you want to stay up to date with everything that's going on with the Sacramento Kings team, make sure you guys hit that subscribe button, because we're covering it all. Everything that's dropping regarding this Kings squad. But let's dive into the madness, because if you haven't been keeping up to date on everything that's going on, the Kings are in talks, and there have been a ton of conversations about what they want. The Kings won't win now players for De'Aaron Fox. They want draft capital, as Shams already reported. We've discussed this already previously on these vids, but things just took a major turn for the Sacramento Kings in regards to this whole situation now with DeMar DeRozan. And essentially, he came out on a quote on a podcast and basically said that not knowing the future of that does make it tougher, and regarding his future with the Sacramento Kings if De'Aaron Fox is traded. Until then, he's focusing on making the most of his time in Sacramento. Not knowing the future, that does make it tougher. I don't have much time left, and I'm not trying to play another 5 years. Now, this sucks. This sucks, as, you know, Kings fans that have been DeMar DeRozan's been a very nice addition, been a very nice piece to this squad. I know he's had some ups and downs. There was a stretch of games where people were like, oh, DeMar DeRozan's washed. It went on the NBA casual media and stuff, but people have been watching the games. DeMar DeRozan's been very effective for the Sacramento Kings this entire season. I mean, over the course of this year, he's averaging 22 points per game, 4 rebounds per night, 4 assists, shooting 32% from the three-point line, which is honestly solid because he doesn't shoot a crazy high volume. He is 35 years old, signed a 3-year contract. It's tough that DeMar DeRozan is saying these types of things, but it makes complete sense. I'm not out here, throwing up the pitchforks at DeMar DeRozan being like, hey, you signed with the Kings this. He's not saying he's going to demand a trade, but his future does become questionable about whether or not the Kings go in a specific direction, because of course DeMar wants to win. Now, he chose the Sacramento Kings. He doesn't have any issues being in Sacramento or anything along those lines, but if the Kings make a trade dealing away De'Aaron Fox for like 6 first-round picks, of course, that wouldn't be a horrific trade in regards to the future, the cap building and all that stuff, the future of the Sacramento Kings organization. Of course, that does affect the team in the short term. And it makes sense for a player of his age that, again, hasn't been with the Sacramento Kings a super long time, was probably sold something that the Kings would be a team competing for the playoffs and all these types of things, doesn't want to be a part of a rebuild. So that makes complete sense. But what is the direction that the Kings are going to go into? And now we have some more updates, more details in terms of the latest on teams. And essentially, Damian Barling came out and said that De'Aaron Fox does not have a list of teams. The list is one, and that is San Antonio. Now, this has kind of been the reporting, the consistent discourse since this. It wasn't even a trade request, but since the Kings revealed their willingness to deal away their superstar point guard. But even if De'Aaron Fox's desired destination, the list is only one, that doesn't mean other teams aren't going to trade for him. There's a 1.5 years left on his contract, and the guy is an absolute monster this season. 25 points, 5 rebounds, 6 assists. So just because De'Aaron Fox is just interested in going to one team, specifically in terms of his request list and all that type of stuff, and this has been confirmed because, again, Shams, all these guys are kind of the reporters. Fox has said, if a team is looking to trade you, obviously you're going to have your preferences, so the Spurs being that team does make a ton of sense, but they aren't the only team that I'm sure De'Aaron Fox be willing to re-sign with, be open to playing with. I mean, he's open to staying with the Sacramento Kings until his contract goes out. He hasn't come out and made a Jimmy Butler hissy fit in regards to trying to get his way out of Sacramento or anything like that. His agent just kind of revealed to the Sacramento Kings organization, hey, he's probably not going to re-sign. It makes a ton of sense for you guys to deal him away right now. So that makes sense to the San Antonio Spurs, but we did hear another report that came out that did reveal something interesting. And basically, this is coming from Vince Goodwill. The De'Aaron Fox list includes San Antonio, Miami, and Houston. So, again, some contradicting reporting. The Spurs have been the team that's surely listed out there. De'Aaron Fox wanting to join Victor Wembanyama. But the Heat and the Rockets just having a little bit of an expanded list does help the Kings trade negotiations. Because, of course, as the Shams report broke down, the team wants win-now players. They don't want to facilitate. They don't want to go into a deep rebuild, but they also want some draft capital as well. And the Houston Rockets are a very interesting team. Now, the latest on the Rockets is what they're saying, at least to the public, is, hey, the Rockets, we're going to come out. We like what's going on with our team right now. We're going to see how it goes. And, Amen Thompson's having a very hot week in terms of performance. They have so many players out there on the roster. But, of course, the right deal comes into fruition. Fred VanVleet's on what could be an expiring contract. He has a team option out there for next year at a very expensive price, but they have a bunch of young guys that it's tough to get minutes. Like Tari Eason is a very intriguing player that, of course, isn't getting a ton of run out there with the Rockets because they're like 10, 11 deep of legit NBA rotation players that are pretty young as well. I mean, if the Kings were interested in bringing in, whether it's draft capital or pieces for the future, right, the Rockets do have a ton of picks. They acquired a bunch of those Phoenix Suns picks, which could be very, very valuable for the Kings organization to come in and acquire via trade. But they also have guys like Reed Shepherd, who's the 3rd overall pick in this year's NBA draft, hasn't had a crazy amount of opportunities for the Rockets, so it could be almost like a buy low situation for him. They have guys like Jabari Smith, who I think I'm not bringing up the guys that are unlikely to be traded. Your Alfred Şengün's, your Amen Thompson's, the way that their type of playing, but maybe even you could get one of those guys and have that star player, that big name in return. But given the posturing that Houston's made out there to the public, it feels like they'd, if a trade's going to be made, maybe some draft capital as well as maybe a Cam Whitmore, Tari Eason, Fred VanVleet to make the money work and things along those lines. So, again, not the worst deal in the world. DeMar DeRozan does have a relationship with Fred VanVleet dating back to the Toronto Raptors, so bringing him in could be an interesting way to say, hey, DeMar, your buddy is here. You got some picks. There's a future for this team. See how things go, but of course, DeMar is going to want some win now, guys. The Heat, I think if the Kings do make a trade with the Heat, then it's very likely DeMar DeRozan's going to be on the way out, because the player that would be central in a trade back to the Sacramento Kings would be Tyler Hero, who plays the same position as DeMar DeRozan, and the Kings already have Monk. They already have Keon Ellis, DeMar DeRozan on this roster, so having 4 guys that play the shooting guard position that can score, obviously Keon Ellis is more of a two-way guy, but it doesn't make a ton of sense. It doesn't make a ton of sense, and it's probably not moving the needle right now in terms of rebuild, and the Kings need defense. So DeMar DeRozan's just skill set becomes a little bit redundant if you make that trade out there on that front. So again, if this trade happens soon, don't be surprised to see DeMar DeRozan be another piece. Like, oh, he's been playing awesome, so I wouldn't be shocked if, the Kings can get a decent haul from him. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section down below. You guys best think as far as subscribe to the channel if you guys haven't already. Anyways, I'm signing now. Cheers.